"That is not a disease," Nathan Cole said, staring through the quarantine glass. "That is my lunch." Red emergency lights swept across the isolation chamber, turning every polished surface inside Meridian Interstellar Academy the color of warning. Beyond the glass, Maya Bennett stood beneath a ceiling vent with both hands raised, her cobalt-blue skin threaded with silver light that pulsed beneath the surface in time with her heartbeat. Her white hair floated slightly in the filtered air. The empty thermal container rested on the examination table beside her, its lid open, one corner stained with fermented pepper spread. Above the chamber door, a synthetic voice repeated the same announcement in 12 languages. Unknown contagion detected. Academy lockdown remains in effect. Somewhere behind Nathan, 6,000 students and staff waited behind sealed doors. Ventilation fans slowed to containment speed. Magnetic locks engaged one corridor at a time with heavy mechanical clicks. The air smelled of ozone, antiseptic vapor, and overheated circuitry. Dr. Sereth, the Academy physician, studied the diagnostic display with 4 unblinking eyes. The luminescent markers matched the historical profile of Aurelian-Bloom syndrome. Nathan kept his gaze on Maya. She was trying to look calm, but her amber eyes followed every movement outside the chamber. "That disease has been extinct for 80 years, he said, "which makes its return especially concerning. Or it means your machine is wrong." Dr. Sereth turned one narrow eye toward him. "Machines do not become frightened, Mr. Cole. No, they just frighten everyone else faster." A new message appeared above the chamber. "Decontamination protocol armed. Initialization in 12 minutes." Nathan looked at the countdown, then at the lunch container. 3 hours earlier, it had held a smoked turkey sandwich, sliced apples, dill pickles, tomato soup, and a small jar of pepper spread his mother used to make every winter in Wisconsin. Nothing exotic by human standards. Nothing alive. Nothing capable of closing an orbital academy. Security Officer Vale stood beside him in a dark silver uniform. "You prepared the food?" "This morning." "Did you knowingly give it to the Aurelian student?" Nathan glanced at Maya. Her chin lifted at the word give. "No." The officer's expression hardened. "Then how did she obtain it?" Maya stepped closer to the glass. The silver lines under her skin brightened. The container was left unattended in a public dining area. Her voice came through the speaker, controlled and formal. "Under my people's law, unmarked food becomes communal after 60 heartbeats." Nathan looked at the empty container. "On Earth, it stays somebody's lunch." A few technicians exchanged uncertain glances. Maya folded her arms. "Then Earth requires clearer labels." The remark would have been almost funny if the countdown had not passed 11 minutes. Nathan moved closer to the glass and examined the light beneath her skin. It did not spread randomly. It followed the veins along her hands, neck, and temples, brightening whenever the ventilation system released a warmer burst of air. "When did it begin?" he asked. 2 hours after I ate." "Any pain?" "No." "Dizziness?" Maya hesitated. "Only before the meal." Nathan noticed the pause. He also noticed how tightly she held her posture, as if admitting weakness would cost more than the lockdown. Dr. Sereth touched the control panel. "We must proceed with sterilization." Nathan placed his hand over the sensor before the physician could confirm. "Test the food residue first." "There is insufficient time." "There is exactly enough time to avoid making the wrong decision." The Academy voice interrupted them. 10 minutes until decontamination. Inside the chamber, Maya looked at Nathan for the first time without defiance. The silver light beneath her skin flared brighter. Then every medical display in the room changed at once. Patient 0 identified. A red outline formed around Nathan's image on the security screen. 3 hours earlier, Meridian Interstellar Academy had sounded almost peaceful. Food synthesizers hummed behind polished counters. Trays clicked against tabletops. 30 species filled the dining hall with overlapping voices, soft translator tones, and the faint mechanical whir of climate systems adjusting from one biological preference to another. Nathan Cole entered carrying a dented steel lunch container beneath one arm. The lid was warm against his sleeve, and the familiar smell of toasted bread, smoked turkey, tomato soup, dill pickles, and fermented pepper spread followed him through the room. Several students turned to look. Most meals at Meridian arrived as odorless nutrient blocks or perfectly shaped portions from a dispenser. Nathan still cooked. He said machines could reproduce calories, but they had not yet learned how to reproduce home. He chose a table near the observation window, where Earth hung far below as a blue curve beneath the station. Across the aisle, Maya Bennett sat alone with a data tablet open in front of her. Her cobalt-blue skin reflected the pale light from the window. Her amber eyes moved across the screen, then toward Nathan's lunch, then back again. She did this 3 times. Nathan noticed. He also noticed the empty tray beside her and the way she pressed one hand briefly against her stomach before folding both hands in her lap. He had almost opened the container when his wrist communicator chimed. "Cole, report to the lower engineering bay," said a strained voice. "Coolant pressure is falling in laboratory section 4. Nathan looked at the display. The pressure reading had already dropped 12%. "I am on my way." He set the lunch container on the table, secured the lid, and stood. "Do not let anyone recycle that," he told the cleaning unit. The small machine blinked green. Then another emergency call interrupted its command queue, and it rolled away without answering. Nathan crossed the hall and disappeared through the east doors. Maya watched the doors close behind him. She waited. 60 heartbeats was the Aurelian standard for abandoned food in a communal space. It was considered wasteful to leave nourishment unclaimed when someone else could use it. 58, 59, 60. She rose, crossed the aisle, and placed 2 fingers against the container. It was still warm. No ownership seal. No warning band. No name. By every law she knew, it had become public. She carried it to the observation alcove, where fewer people could see her. The lid released with a soft hiss. Steam rose from the soup. The sandwich smelled sharp, smoky, and unfamiliar. Maya studied it like a laboratory sample, then took one careful bite. Her eyes widened. Human food was warmer, richer, and louder than Aurelian meals. Salt, smoke, acidity, sweetness, and heat arrived all at once. She ate more quickly than she intended. By the time Nathan returned from the engineering bay, the table was empty. The lunch container was gone. Only a slender silver spoon rested beside his chair. He picked it up and recognized the Aurelian crest engraved along the handle. Across the hall, Maya stood behind the glass of the observation alcove, calmly finishing the last of his sandwich. Nathan walked toward her. She saw him coming and did not stop eating. "That belongs to me," he said when the door opened. Maya folded the wrapping with precise care. It was unattended. For 11 minutes. That exceeds 60 heartbeats. On Earth, that is not how ownership works. She lifted one eyebrow. Then Earth needs clearer labels. Nathan should have been angry. Instead, he noticed the tremor in her fingers as she set down the container. Small. Controlled. Easy to miss. "When did you last eat?" he asked. Maya's expression changed, but only for an instant. "That question is irrelevant." She stood, placed the silver spoon in his hand, and walked past him with perfect posture. Nathan watched her leave. On the table, beside the empty soup cup, a single drop of silver light shimmered across the blue skin of her fingertip and vanished. Nathan followed Maya into the academic wing, the silver spoon still warm in his hand. Meridian's afternoon cycle had begun, and the corridors were crowded with students moving between laboratories beneath strips of cool white light. Maya walked quickly, though not quickly enough to hide the slight hesitation in her steps. The silver shimmer returned along the inside of her wrist, then faded beneath the sleeve of her uniform. Nathan kept pace beside her. "You should visit medical. I am not ill. Your skin is glowing. My skin reflects several wavelengths." "Not like that." She stopped outside Xenobiology Hall 3 and turned toward him. "You are unusually persistent for someone whose meal was taken. You are unusually defensive for someone who says nothing is wrong." The classroom doors opened before she could answer. Professor Talvarin, a narrow reptilian scholar with a voice like dry paper, stood beneath a rotating hologram of the human digestive system. "Perfect timing," he said as the students entered. "Today's subject is Death World Nutrition." Nathan took a seat near the back. Maya chose the row in front of him, posture straight, eyes fixed forward. The hologram shifted to a list of common Earth foods. Fermented vegetables, aged cheese, coffee, hot peppers, pickled cucumbers. Several alien students made quiet sounds of disbelief. Humans routinely consume acids, stimulants, fungal cultures, and plant defense compounds, Professor Varin continued. In controlled amounts, these substances are not only tolerated but enjoyed. A student with translucent skin raised one hand. Why would any species choose discomfort as flavor? Nathan answered before the professor could. Because mild discomfort can become pleasure when the body knows it is safe. Half the room turned toward him. Maya did not. An extremely human explanation, Professor Varen said. The display changed again, showing capsaicin molecules and fermentation byproducts. Nathan watched Maya's shoulders tighten. She looked down at her hand. A thin silver line had appeared beneath her blue skin, running from her palm toward her wrist. She closed her fingers over it. Professor Varen continued speaking. Cross-species consumption is strongly discouraged without metabolic screening. Certain fermented compounds can produce harmless but dramatic reactions in Aurelian physiology. Maya turned slightly in her seat. Nathan saw the realization in her amber eyes. Harmless? She asked. The professor nodded. Usually. The Aurelian body converts several Earth lactobacillus byproducts into photoreactive proteins. Temporary luminescence may occur. Elevated temperature can intensify the effect. A ripple of amusement moved through the classroom. Maya's jaw tightened. Nathan leaned forward. How long does it last? 2 to 4 hours, depending on dosage and nutritional state. The final words landed differently. Nutritional state. Nathan looked at Maya again. Her fingers were trembling. Not from fear. From weakness. She stood before the lecture ended. Excuse me. Her voice remained controlled, but the silver light had reached the side of her neck. Professor Varen paused. Miss Bennett, are you experiencing a reaction? No. Every sensor in the room answered for her. The ceiling lights shifted from white to amber. Ventilation slowed. A medical scanner unfolded from the wall and passed a blue beam across her body. The display flashed once, then twice. Unknown biological marker detected. Maya stared at the message. That classification is incorrect. The scanner ignored her. Doors sealed at both ends of the room. Students rose from their seats as the academy voice filled the hall. Remain calm. Containment protocol is active. Nathan moved beside Maya, while silver light spread in delicate lines beneath her skin. How much did you eat? He asked. All of it. The alarm changed tone. Somewhere beyond the classroom, heavy quarantine shutters began closing across the academy. Maya looked toward Nathan, pride giving way to the first clear trace of fear. You said the food was yours. It was. Then why are you standing next to me? Nathan watched the medical system pull his cafeteria records, ingredient list, and kitchen access history into one red file. Because right now, he said, you need someone who knows exactly what was in it. Above them, the academy identified the source of exposure. His name appeared first. The red file expanded across every screen in Xenobiology Hall 3. Nathan Cole. Human. Food preparation license active. Kitchen access confirmed. Potential source organism. The academy voice remained calm. All individuals exposed to patient 0 will be transferred to quarantine. Nathan looked at Maya. The silver lines beneath her cobalt-blue skin had brightened around her throat and hands, but her breathing remained steady. No fever. No confusion. No sign of infection. Only light. That label is wrong, he said. Professor Varen approached the sealed door and pressed his identification badge against the panel. Nothing happened. The system will not release us until Medical Command clears the room. Then Medical Command needs better data. Nathan opened his wrist terminal and pulled up the ingredient list from his kitchen log. Smoked turkey, whole grain bread, dill pickles, tomato soup, apple slices, fermented pepper spread. He highlighted the final item. This is the only ingredient with active fermentation compounds. Professor Varen studied the record. The reaction described in lecture is possible. Possible is not enough to stop the lockdown. Maya leaned against the nearest desk for half a second before straightening again. Nathan noticed. You are getting weaker. I am standing. That was not my question. Before she could answer, the classroom doors released with a mechanical hiss. 2 security officers entered wearing sealed gray suits. Their visors reflected the amber warning lights. Nathan Cole, one said. You will come with us. Where is she going? Nathan asked, nodding toward Maya. Medical isolation. Then I am going there too. The officer's tone hardened. You are not in a position to negotiate. Nathan held up his kitchen record. I know exactly what she ate, how it was prepared, and how long it stayed warm. You can remove the only useful witness, or you can let me help. For 3 seconds, No one moved. The Academy countdown appeared above the door. 8 minutes until decontamination initialization. Professor Varen stepped forward. He is correct. If the reaction is metabolic, his information is essential. The officers exchanged a glance, then escorted both Nathan and Maya into the corridor. Meridian Academy no longer looked like a school. Quarantine shutters divided the halls into narrow sections. Red lights pulsed above sealed doors. Students watched through observation windows while filtered air moved with a low industrial hum. Nathan could smell antiseptic vapor through his mask. Maya walked beside him in silence. Each warm breath made the silver pattern along her face glow brighter. "Does it hurt?" he asked. "No, are you dizzy?" "Slightly." "How long since your last full meal before mine?" Her eyes shifted toward him. "That is not relevant to the contamination. It is relevant to metabolism." She said nothing. They reached medical isolation. Dr. Sareth waited behind a transparent barrier, surrounded by diagnostic displays. A scanner passed over Nathan first, then Maya. Nathan's results appeared clean. Maya's did not. The silver marker matched the extinct disease profile at 97%. 3% is enough to be wrong, Nathan said. Dr. Sareth raised one hand. The system requires certainty. Then test the food. The container is in evidence processing. There is residue in the lid. The doctor looked toward Security Officer Vale. Retrieve it. A small evidence drone arrived less than a minute later, carrying the empty thermal container inside a sealed case. Nathan pointed to the reddish smear near the corner. Run that through the metabolic analyzer with an Aurelian enzyme model. Dr. Sareth hesitated as the countdown reached 6 minutes. Then he placed the sample into the machine. The analyzer hummed. Blue light moved across the chamber. Maya gripped the edge of the examination table, her expression controlled but pale beneath the silver glow. The result appeared. Photoreactive protein match. Non-infectious. Nathan exhaled. There. But the countdown did not stop. Instead, a new warning replaced the result. Decontamination cannot be canceled without council authorization. Time remaining, 5 minutes. Dr. Sareth stared at the message. The council is on the far side of the lockdown. Nathan looked through the glass at Maya. Then we do not need a doctor, he said. We need someone willing to admit the machine made a mistake. The countdown dropped below 5 minutes, while Dr. Sareth sent the test result through every emergency channel he could access. Each request returned the same answer. Council authorization required. Nathan watched the words repeat across the display and felt the room becoming smaller with every second. Can the decontamination system be delayed? He asked. Dr. Sareth shook his head. Not through medical command. What is the process target? Organic contamination, airborne particles, and agricultural cultures. Nathan looked toward the Academy map. The agricultural wing occupied 3 decks. Seed libraries. Fungal research. Food cultures for 27 species. A full sterilization would not harm the students inside sealed shelters, but it would erase years of biological work and leave thousands dependent on emergency rations. The machine had already decided that destruction was safer than uncertainty. Maya sat behind the isolation glass, the silver lines beneath her skin pulsing more slowly now. The reaction is fading, Nathan said. The system sees the original marker, not the current reading. Dr. Sareth adjusted the scan. Correct. It is using the first result as the primary threat model. Nathan picked up the empty lunch container. A thin streak of pepper spread remained beneath the rim. Then we give it a better model. Security Officer Vale stepped closer. Explain. The analyzer proved the compound creates the same marker in Aurelian chemistry. If we reproduce the reaction outside a living body, the system will have to classify it as metabolic, not infectious. Dr. Sareth looked at the sample. We would need a controlled Aurelian enzyme medium. You have one in the teaching laboratory. Professor Varen's voice came through the wall speaker. He had remained connected from Xenobiology Hall 3. Cabinet 7. Lower shelf. The culture is designed for safe metabolic demonstrations. Officer Vale frowned. That laboratory is 3 sealed sectors away. Nathan pointed toward the service schematic. The food delivery tubes still connect every academic wing. Those tubes are automated. The main valves are manual. The countdown reached 4 minutes. Nathan opened the maintenance panel beside the diagnostic station. Warm air and the smell of machine oil drifted into the room. Send the enzyme culture through the tube. I will mix the sample here. Dr. Sareth hesitated. You are not trained for medical handling. I am trained to keep systems from failing when the approved procedure stops working. A small transport capsule arrived 70 seconds later, rattling through the metal tube. Nathan opened it, removed the sealed enzyme vial, and placed 1 drop of pepper residue into the testing chamber. The liquid changed from clear to silver. Light spread through it in delicate lines, identical to the pattern beneath Maya's skin. The analyzer began comparing both samples. 98% match. 99%. 100%. Non-infectious metabolic reaction confirmed. Nathan sent the result directly into the Academy threat system. The countdown paused at 2 minutes and 12 seconds. For one hopeful moment, every red light stopped flashing. Then a second warning appeared. Nutritional abnormality detected. Subject metabolic response exceeds expected range. Nathan turned toward Maya. Expected for whom? Dr. Sareth opened her student health record. The daily nutrition profile appeared beside her current energy levels. Nathan stared at the numbers. This cannot be right. Maya looked away. The system had assigned her a daily intake designed for a smaller species with half her metabolic demand. According to the record, she had exceeded her allowance 11 days in a row. Her meal access had been suspended after the 3rd warning. Nathan stepped closer to the glass. You did not take my food because of your cultural rule. Maya remained silent. You took it because you were hungry. Her amber eyes finally met his. The silver glow beneath her skin had faded, but the exhaustion in her face no longer had anywhere to hide. I filed 3 appeals, she said quietly. The system said the portion was sufficient for an adult female. Nathan looked at the countdown, still frozen above them. It never bothered to ask which kind. The frozen countdown remained above the isolation chamber, while Dr. Sareth reviewed Maya's nutrition record line by line. Each entry looked orderly. Daily allowance calculated. Consumption warning issued. Access restricted. Appeal denied. The language was clean enough to hide what it had done. Nathan stood beside the glass with the empty lunch container in his hands. How long since you had a full meal? He asked. Maya kept her eyes on the floor. 11 days. The answer was so quiet that the speaker almost failed to carry it. Nathan looked at the physician. And nobody noticed? Dr. Sareth opened the wellness reports. Her vital signs were within Academy limits. Limits designed for which species? The physician did not answer. Security Officer Vale shifted beside the door. The immediate threat has been disproved. We should remove the lockdown before discussing administrative errors. This is not administrative, Nathan said. She was hungry enough to take food from a stranger, and the system called her dishonest before it checked whether she had been fed. Maya raised her head. I did take what was not mine. Yes, Nathan said. And that matters. So does why. The isolation lock released with a soft click. Dr. Sareth objected as Nathan opened the inner door, but he stepped through before anyone could stop him. The chamber smelled of disinfectant and warm metal. Maya sat upright, though fatigue had softened the rigid line of her shoulders. Nathan placed the lunch container on the table between them. Tell me about the appeals. Maya studied him for a moment. The first response said my intake exceeded the allowance for an adult female. The second required medical proof of exceptional need. The medical office referred me back to nutrition services. The third appeal was closed because I had already submitted the maximum number. Did you tell anyone in person? I went to the dining supervisor. Her amber eyes hardened with remembered embarrassment. He told me every student claims hunger when restrictions are applied. Nathan looked at the faint silver light still fading beneath her skin. So you stopped asking. I stopped expecting an answer. The words settled between them with more weight than anger. Dr. Sareth entered carrying a sealed nutrient drink formulated for Aurelian metabolism. Maya accepted it, but her hand shook against the container. Nathan pretended not to notice. She drank slowly. Color returned to her face before the silver glow fully disappeared. On the wall, her corrected metabolic profile appeared beside the Academy's assigned model. The difference was not small. The system had calculated her needs using data from a species that weighed 40% less and processed food at half the rate. Nathan traced the source code to a shared template marked Universal Adult Female Standard. Universal, he said. That usually means someone stopped measuring. Dr. Sareth searched the academy records for other students assigned to the same template. One result appeared, then 7, then 43. The list continued growing. Different species, different body structures, the same simplified category. Several had repeated fatigue reports. Others had missed classes, lost laboratory clearance, or received conduct warnings for unauthorized food requests. Maya stared at the names. It was not only me. No, Nathan said. You were only the first person the system made visible. Security Officer Vale checked the countdown. The pause will expire unless the council confirms cancellation. The timer flickered back to life. 2 minutes and 11 seconds. At the same moment, a message arrived from the council chamber. The lockdown would be lifted only after Maya accepted responsibility for unauthorized consumption and Nathan confirmed that his food caused the incident. Nathan read the statement once, then deleted the signature field. She can admit what she did, he said. I can admit what was in the container. He turned the screen toward Dr. Sareth. But I will not help them call this solved while hundreds of students are still being measured by the wrong body. Outside the chamber, every red light began flashing again. The council had scheduled an emergency hearing with 1 minute and 40 seconds remaining. The emergency hearing opened across every screen in Meridian Academy with 1 minute and 38 seconds remaining. 7 council members appeared in separate frames, their faces lit by cold blue panels. Behind them, the decontamination timer continued counting down in red. Nathan stood beside Maya inside the medical isolation chamber, while Dr. Sareth and Security Officer Vale remained near the control station. The council chair spoke first. Maya Bennett, do you acknowledge taking food that did not belong to you? Maya looked at Nathan, then back at the screen. Yes. Her voice was steady. I took the meal without permission. Do you accept responsibility for the academy lockdown? She hesitated. Nathan could see the answer she had been trained to give. Simple, clean, useful to people who wanted the problem to end quickly. Maya drew one slow breath. I accept responsibility for taking the food. I do not accept responsibility for a medical system that misidentified a harmless reaction or a nutrition system that denied me adequate meals for 11 days. The council frames remained still. The timer reached 1 minute and 14 seconds. The chair turned to Nathan. Mr. Cole, will you confirm that your food caused the incident? Nathan placed the empty steel container on the examination table. My food caused a harmless metabolic response. That is not the question. It is the accurate answer. The academy requires a clear chain of responsibility. Nathan looked through the glass at the red lights flashing along the corridor. Then start with the chain. He sent Dr. Sareth's data to the hearing. One file became 43 student records. 43 became 112. The universal nutrition template appeared beside bodies it had never been designed to measure. Students with dense mineral tissues. Students with rapid thermal metabolism. Students who required liquid nutrients, trace metals, or twice the assumed calorie level. The same label had reduced them all to one line. Adult female standard. The council chair's expression tightened. These records are outside the scope of the present emergency. No, Nathan said. They are the emergency. 58 seconds. Maya stepped closer to the screen. The silver glow beneath her skin had nearly faded, leaving only thin lines along her hands. Your system told me I had eaten enough while I was still hungry. It told me I was dishonest when I asked for more. Then it called my body dangerous when it reacted exactly as my biology required. Another council member leaned forward. The decontamination protocol protects 6,000 lives. Dr. Sareth answered before Nathan could. The evidence shows no contagious agent. Continuing the procedure would destroy the agricultural cultures, seed archives, and medical libraries without improving safety. 42 seconds. Security Officer Vale opened the Academy command channel. Council authorization remains required for cancellation. The chair stared at the data. Mr. Cole, you are asking us to halt a safety procedure based on an unapproved interpretation. Nathan placed the fermented pepper sample beneath the analyzer again. Silver light spread through the enzyme medium. The display matched Maya's original scan at 100%, then marked it non-infectious. I am asking you to believe your own evidence. 30 seconds. Across the academy, students began opening their personal health records. New messages flooded the public channel. Meal restrictions. Denied appeals. Fatigue reports. misclassified metabolisms. The error was no longer hidden inside one chamber. It had names. It had dates. It had witnesses. 20 seconds. The chair looked toward the other council members. One by one, their approval symbols changed from gray to green. Cancel decontamination, she ordered. Officer Vale entered the authorization code. The timer stopped at 7 seconds. Red lights turned amber, then white. Magnetic locks released throughout the station with a long sequence of heavy clicks. 6,000 sealed doors opened. No one cheered at first. The silence felt too large. Then voices returned to the corridors, cautious and human and alien all at once. Maya looked at Nathan. You could have ended this sooner by blaming me. That would have ended the countdown, he said. It would not have fixed the reason you were hungry. On the council screen, the universal nutrition template was suspended pending review. 112 student profiles were marked for immediate reassessment. Maya lowered her eyes to the empty lunch container. I still owe you a meal. Nathan looked toward the corridor where the academy lights had finally returned to normal. Start by eating one that was meant for you. The first students entered the medical atrium 20 minutes after the lockdown ended. They came carrying meal records, denied appeals, and quiet expressions that looked too familiar to Maya. A crystalline student from the lower gravity colonies had been restricted for consuming too many mineral supplements. A small-winged scholar had lost laboratory clearance after repeated requests for additional sugar compounds. 3 aquatic students had been classified as non-compliant because their hydration needs exceeded the universal schedule. Dr. Sarith projected the records across the wall until the chamber glowed with rows of numbers. Nathan stood beside the display, arms folded, watching the same pattern repeat. The system had not failed once. It had failed neatly, consistently, and without embarrassment. That was what made it dangerous. The nutritional model was introduced 6 years ago, Dr. Sarith said. It was designed to simplify cross-species meal planning. Security Officer Vale looked at the growing list of affected students. Simplify for whom? No one answered. Maya sat at the edge of the examination table with a properly calibrated meal tray in front of her. Warm grains, mineral broth, protein slices, and citrus-colored fruit filled the compartments. She had eaten slowly at first, as if waiting for someone to tell her the portion was excessive. Nathan noticed every pause. You can finish it, he said. Maya looked up. I know. You stopped. I am adjusting to the idea that the meal will not be taken away. The words were quiet, but several people nearby heard them. The room became still. Nathan pulled a chair beside her. Then take your time. On the main display, the council announced an immediate suspension of the universal nutrition template. Every student would receive an individual metabolic review. Food restrictions would require medical confirmation and a human or alien supervisor, not only an automated response. The announcement used careful language. Procedural oversight. Classification mismatch. Temporary corrective action. Nathan read it once and shook his head. They still will not say what happened. Maya set down her spoon. Then I will. Before anyone could stop her, she activated the Academy public channel. Her face appeared on screens across Meridian. The faint silver lines beneath her skin were almost gone, but her expression was clear and steady. I took food that did not belong to me, she said. I was wrong to do that. I am sorry. Nathan watched the students around the atrium. No one laughed. No one looked away. Maya continued. I also asked this academy for help 3 times. Each request was denied by a system that knew my category but did not know my body. Today, that same system called me a threat because it could not understand the response it had helped create. The public channel filled with messages. Support. Anger. More records. More names. Maya looked toward Nathan through the camera. The human whose meal I took could have protected himself by blaming me. Instead, he asked why I was hungry. Her voice softened. That question changed more than the lockdown. She ended the transmission. For several seconds, the atrium remained silent. Then the meal dispensers throughout the academy restarted under emergency manual settings. Their usual mechanical hum sounded different now. Less like authority, more like service. Nathan picked up the empty steel lunch container from the evidence tray and closed the lid. Maya watched him. I meant what I said. I owe you a meal. You owe me an apology, he said. You already gave it. She looked down at her own tray. And the meal? Nathan glanced at the students lining up for corrected portions. That can wait. Maya studied his face, uncertain. Why? He nodded toward her unfinished food. Because I asked whether you were hungry, and you still have not answered. She looked at the meal in front of her, then at the open doors beyond the atrium. Yes, she said. Nathan pushed the tray gently closer. Then eat. 1 month later, Meridian Interstellar Academy sounded different at lunchtime. The food synthesizers still hummed. Trays still clicked against tables. Translators still whispered across 30 languages. But above every dispenser, new metabolic profiles adjusted in real time, identifying each student by species, body mass, climate needs, and individual medical history instead of forcing them into a universal category. The change was not elegant. It required more staff, more questions, and more patience. Nathan Cole considered that a good sign. Systems became dangerous when they were too simple to inconvenience anyone. He entered the dining hall carrying 2 dented steel lunch containers, one beneath each arm. The smell of toasted bread and tomato soup followed him toward the observation window. Earth curved below the station, blue and white beneath the morning sun. Maya Bennett sat at their usual table reviewing a Nutrition Council report. Since the lockdown, she had become the Academy's first student representative for cross-species food access. Her cobalt-blue skin no longer carried silver light, though Nathan sometimes noticed her studying her hands as if she still expected it to return. She looked up when he set both containers on the table. You brought 2. I can count. Your confidence remains excessive. Your gratitude remains hidden. A small smile touched her face. Nathan sat across from her, but did not open either container. Maya looked at the lids, then at the clock on the wall. She folded her hands and waited. Nathan raised an eyebrow. What are you doing? Following Aurelian law. Which law? Unclaimed food in a public area becomes communal after 60 heartbeats. I am sitting directly in front of it. You have not marked either container. Nathan leaned back. You planned this joke before I arrived. For several days. They waited in silence while the dining hall moved around them. At 60 heartbeats, Maya reached toward both containers with exaggerated seriousness. Nathan placed one hand over the nearest lid. Still mine. Then your legal system remains unnecessarily complicated. Maybe, but this one is yours. He pushed the second container across the table. Maya did not touch it immediately. The difference was small, but Nathan saw it. A month earlier, hunger had made her move quickly. Now she waited to be certain. You are giving it to me? She asked. Clearly labeled. Properly assigned. No cultural dispute. She looked down at the container. Her name had been engraved into the lid beside a small Aurelian symbol for shared trust. Nathan had spent 2 evenings learning how to write it correctly. Maya traced the symbol with one finger. What is inside? Food approved by Dr. Sereth. Smoked turkey, grain bread, apple slices, tomato soup, and a version of the pepper spread with the fermentation cultures removed. So, I will not illuminate the room? Probably not. Probably. Nathan opened his own container. Science requires humility. Maya laughed quietly, then opened hers. Warm steam rose between them. Around the dining hall, students from dozens of worlds received meals calibrated for bodies the Academy had finally learned to recognize. No alarms sounded. No doors closed. Nothing dramatic happened. Nathan thought that might be the best proof that the system had changed. Maya took one bite of the sandwich and paused. It tastes different. Safer. Less interesting. You nearly shut down the Academy last time. A memorable lunch should have consequences. Nathan shook his head, but he was smiling. Maya looked toward the observation window, where sunlight spread across Earth's horizon. I never thank you properly. You apologized. That was not the same. She turned back to him. You could have made me smaller to protect yourself. Instead, you made the Academy look closer. Nathan closed the soup lid after the steam cleared his glasses. I asked one question. You asked the question the system never did. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The machines hummed. Trays moved. Somewhere nearby, a dispenser adjusted a meal after a student requested more food, and this time it simply provided it. Maya lifted her sandwich. By your laws, what happens when someone shares a meal? Nathan looked at the 2 containers between them. Usually, they become friends. She considered that, then nodded. Your laws are improving. The first meal she took from him closed every door in the Academy. The second opened one neither of them intended to close again.